Hi, welcome to Kayak Fishing Cornwall. In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about how to choose yourself a fishing kayak. It's a subject that comes up regularly on the Facebook groups and I've been asked to cover it a couple of times myself. I've been at it now a few years. I've owned a few kayaks, so I've got a little bit of experience on the matter, which hopefully will help you to make an informed choice about what type of kayak you need to go for. Right, so this isn't just me waffling for 20 minutes. I did take a trip to Cornwall Canoes, who kindly let me take a few pictures and a few short videos. So I'll try and stick those in and do some voiceovers as we go along, so to give examples of what I'm talking about. So yeah, hopefully it won't just be me droning on for the whole 20 minutes or so. There is a bewildering array of fishing kayaks available out there to choose from. And if you ask friends or if you ask people on Facebook, quite often they'll tell you that what they've got's the best. And if you're looking to buy something, then whoever's selling it's going to tell you that that's the best, isn't it? But I think what you can do really is ask yourself a few questions and answer them honestly, and it will help you, give you an idea of what type of thing you should be looking at. If I can give you a few pointers here, then and get you to consider some things that you may have not considered before. So for the purpose of this video, I'm not really going to go into inflatable fishing kayaks. I know I myself did consider it when I was first thinking about getting a kayak. There's, you think, well, they fit into the boot of the car, they're usually cheaper, they theoretically sound pretty good, but I've owned one. It's a mid-range, quite big. I go out with my wife and my daughter on it, just sightseeing. We go 50 meters off the coast on a completely flat and windless day. Is the only time it gets used. Typically they catch the wind like you wouldn't believe, and they're difficult to keep in a straight line. They're just not really the thing. If you want to do some proper fishing, then you do yourself a favor and rule it out straight away, to be honest. So I think the first thing you need to consider is your physical ability. There's no getting around the fact that you need a certain amount of mobility and strength and physical ability to go kayaking, from getting it on top of your car and off again, down to the launch site, and then back up from the launch site, back on your car. It can be hard work, and these kayaks can be heavy, so you do need to take that into consideration. So even as far as paddling, when you're on the water, even if you've got a pedal drive or a motor driven kayak, you still have to consider if they break, which there's a good chance they will at some point, then you still have to be able to paddle it back from wherever you are as well. So there's kind of no getting around the fact that there is a lot of, it's a physical sport basically, and you need to think about that. Can I seriously, will my body do it, and can I handle that kind of thing? If I apply that thought process to myself, I consider myself to be generally physically able and not unfit. I do occasionally suffer with a lower back pain. Now, for me, this means that time on the water can be quite painful in certain types of kayaks. So if I'm sat in the ones with the seats that just sit in the kayak, 3 or 4 hours in, I'm in quite a lot of pain on that. So that, and obviously lifting it on and off the car, I have to be very careful about that and make sure I do it in such a way as to not sort of expose my back to any bad lifting practice or anything like that. So I have to be really careful with doing those things. When I changed over to the Hobie, that was a bit of a game changer for me. The vantage seat on my Hobie Compass is fantastically comfortable, and the position again, compared with the pedals, really helps me. So I went from being in agony after 3 or 4 hours to now being able to do 4 or 5 hours comfortably in the seat on that Hobie. So there are things that you can do to help yourself. I also do regular stretching and like core exercises to take the pressure off of my back. And especially if I'm going to lift the kayak off of the wall where it's stored, I'll make sure I do a couple of stretches, a couple of minutes stretching things before I do that. Because if you get up early in the morning and you're cold and you run out there all keen and grab the thing off the wall without doing any stretches and all, I've done that, and I've ended up with a pretty bad start to the day. So there's things you can do to help yourself and your physical preparedness to sort of do the kayaking. Yeah, so as well as do stretches and keep your core strength up, you can also buy things to help you. So obviously a good quality kayak set of wheels will help you with pulling the thing around between launching and landing. There's things you can buy to help you load kayaks onto the top of your car with less effort. And that obviously sort of kind of leads on to the weight of the kayak you choose. So if you know you're not that strong or you're not that mobile, there's no point buying a kayak that's at the heavier end of the scale. And even a few kilos can actually make a big difference. I've found that myself going from a Galaxy Sturgeon to the Hobie Compass. It was only a difference of about 4 or 5 kilos, but it was really, really noticeable and really made a big difference whilst sort of trying to manhandle the kayak on dry land. Probably the most important question is, what kind of fishing do you want to do? Generally speaking, the longer the kayak, the better it's going to handle conditions at sea, and the wider the kayak, the slower it's going to go. So you need to ask yourself what kind of fishing you're going to do. Are you going to fish lakes and rivers, or are you going to fish off the coast? Are you just wanting to fish like 100 meters off the shore in a nice sheltered bay? Is that going to be enough for you? Or are you going to want to go as often as you possibly can, which means you're going to need to get a kayak that can handle less favorable conditions. The less favorable conditions your kayak can handle, the more often you can go out and fish. Are you going to be fishing reefs that are 2 miles offshore, or are you the area you want to fish mainly, is it all close in by the coastline? These are questions you need to ask yourself, and maybe write your answers down so you can refer back to it, or just to make you think a little bit more about what it is you're planning on doing. For myself, I've always loved fishing. I've always loved the sea. I really want to go as often as my commitments will allow and the conditions will allow. So I need something that's going to handle the sea conditions fairly well. So something stable, and yet something with enough length to cope with some of the more sort of challenging conditions, because let's face it, you don't get that many calm days in this country. You have to, they're few and far between, and in the meantime you have to just take what you can get, don't you? So if I take you through my sort of journey from the beginning, it might hopefully help you consider a few things that you may not have, and help you make a bit of a more educated decision if you're going for your first kayak. My first kayak was around 9 foot in length and was typical of a sort of cheap average kayak of that size. There's loads and loads of different models around that sort of length with a few rod holders, and I think they're pretty much all basically the same design, but with just different badges stuck on them. I used it about 3 times, and each time I used it, it didn't fill me with confidence. There was water like constantly coming up through the scupper holes, and it felt like it wasn't, it was barely floating underneath me. I could hardly paddle it. Well, I couldn't paddle it in a straight line. I was zigzagging everywhere. And yeah, it really didn't fill me with confidence. I'm 6'1" and 14 stone, so I'm not small, but I'm not huge by any means. And it quickly dawned on me that I should have gone for something bigger. I bought that new and was very excited to try it out. But yeah, 3 times and I was thinking, nope, this isn't it. I need something bigger than this. It may have been all right, on flat, calm days, really close in a sheltered bay, or maybe fishing on a lake where, one way or another, you're only going to end up at the bank, aren't you? So for that kind of thing, it might have been all right, or maybe just messing about in the shallows, on a nice day. But for me, I wanted to go further and, in a straight line. Right, I reckon I've done enough waffling at this point, so let's take a look at what Cornwall Canoes has to offer. Right, good morning. As you can see, the weather's horrendous, so I'm doing the next best thing to kayak fishing today, and that is going out and wasting money on kayak fishing. So I'm here at Cornwall Canoes. I'm after some boots, and we're going to have a look at what beautiful things they've got for sale whilst we're here. Cornwall Canoes has pretty much got everything you can think of kayak related. We've got kags here and long john wetsuits and dry trousers, lots of nice gear, the palm gear and that, selection of dry bags. What have we got here? Yak Attack accessories, a couple of racks of those. It's really good. You can get your hands on them and a feel for them, see how they fit and everything. There's the boots that I was coming in for. Over here, what have we got? A whole rack of Railblazer, Burley Pro. So there's a bumper bro that I've actually got from those guys installed on my compass. And big range of Burley Pro stuff there. And Railblazer stuff there, which again, it's really nice to get your hands on it and see how you can apply it to your kayak. Various other gear there from Yak Attack. Big range of nice palm PFDs. Another rack of accessories. Upstairs, they've got the sort of entry-level fishing kayaks and mid-size sort of fishing kayaks. This one is typical of a sort of 9-ish foot entry-level kayak for fishing. It's got multiple rod holders on it, a little hatch for your storage, one of those seats that you clip in. And again, these little 9-foot entry-level ones, they tend to share a similar shape. There's only so much you can do with a kayak of that size. But they are, kitted out there full of rod holders and whatnot. These are 2 sort of mid-size 10, 11-foot paddle kayaks. So this would be your next step up if you wanted something slightly bigger. They've also got up there a range of just leisure kayaks and a couple of inflatables there up the end. Downstairs is where they keep the nice stuff. So there's a rack of Hobies there. You've got the Outback on the bottom. What is that in the middle? An Evo and a Passport up the top. They've got Viking kayaks down there, which are highly regarded in the kayak fishing community. There's an Outback down the bottom. What's that in the middle? Compass. Yeah. Got a Vibe over there, and a Hobie Outback kitted out for fishing by the shop. Lots of nice gear attached to that. Lovely fishing platform. Sponsored by Wild Seas there on the side. Check out their channel. Passport Revo, which I've actually got half an eye on. Slightly longer and narrower than the Compass, would give me a little bit of edge whilst trying to get further distance. A few more Vikings, big Pro Angler 14 at the bottom, and a few more Vikings down there. So at this point, I still didn't really ask myself those key questions. I just knew I wanted something bigger and more capable. So I went on Facebook groups, asked a few questions, and a lot of people recommended the Galaxy Sturgeon. So I had a look on Marketplace, spotted one of those, immediately bought it, and it was a big step up in capability. Really sturdy, really well made, at 13.5 foot long, and I think it's 86 centimeters wide. It had loads of room on it, loads of rod holders. It was really good on the water, really could handle the waves well, and was it had a transducer compartment, so, set up for someone who's properly going to fish. And it was really good on the water. Had some great fishing on it. But it still didn't tick all the boxes for me. It was really quite heavy out of the water and really difficult for me to move around, get on and off the car, that kind of thing. And it was, because it's quite wide, it was also pretty slow in the water. So if I was out fishing with anyone, I'd get left well behind. So going any sort of distance in it, it really was some effort, to be fair. So the Galaxy Sturgeon was nearly ticking all the boxes. I mean, I was thoroughly enjoying the fishing, but the weight of the thing and moving it around off the water was really becoming a bit of an issue for me. And it was about this time I was looking around and getting, well, pedal drives were catching my eye. So I thought, I'm into this hobby. This is one that's going to last. I don't mind, getting rid of this to fund another one. So I looked about a bit, and then I ended up with the Galaxy Sturgeon FX, which is the pedal drive version. The Galaxy Sturgeon FX really did convert me to the advantages of a pedal drive. I had many good trips out on that kayak, and was quickly sold on the benefits of the pedal drive. You can alter your drifts without putting your rod down, turn to face into the a certain direction without putting the rod down. Maneuver in close around places and fish at the same time, which really was advantageous for me. But once again, I didn't really ask myself those questions that I should have asked initially, and the kayak was the same weight as the previous one, so I still had that problem with loading it and dragging it around between launching and landing. And also the seating position in that kayak was like some kind of torture device for me. I could feel within an hour my back starting to go, and then after 3 hours I was in absolute agony and heading for the shore because my back just couldn't take the position on that kayak. I think that was a problem particular to me. I've never come across anybody else that has had that bad an issue with the seating position on there. So I mean, I think the kayak was a great kayak, really well made. Can't fault it really for the price range, but it just wasn't right for me. At this point, I had no choice but to take into consideration my back and my physical ability, because it was just too painful. I was at the stage where I was almost at the stage of quitting the hobby. But I did a load of research, asked a bunch of people some stuff, and found that there were lighter kayaks out there with nicer seats, more adjustable seating. It just meant paying a little bit more, really, for that sort of level of comfort. So I was lucky that the Hobie Compass came up for sale when I actually had the funds knocking about to sort of spend, and that's kept me in the hobby. The difference is a few kilos lighter than the Sturgeons I was on, which made a huge difference, and the seat made all the difference. Now I can do 4 or 5 hours on that comfortably. It's a pleasure to paddle and pedal in that thing. The Compass is 12 foot in length, and it's quite wide. So whilst it's not the fastest kayak, the pedal drive system is really efficient. You can cruise at a decent speed with very little effort. It's lighter for me, so handling it out of the water is really easy. The 12 foot allows it to handle the conditions out there pretty good, so I can get out very often and fish on it. It's got all the room you could ever want, really. I can fit a live bait tank in there, tackle boxes, H crate. I've got a fish bag up the front. At the moment, it's ticking all the boxes, to be fair. Something faster would be nice, but that's at the cost of stability. So at the moment, I'm happy with the one I've ended up with. But I've gone through 3 kayaks to get here unnecessarily. But that's just the way it's gone for me. Right, you've probably got a budget in mind for your kayak. buying new gear is lovely if you can afford it, but you've got to bear in mind then that if you buy a new kayak, the minute you strap it to your car outside the shop, you've lost, loads of money on it straight away. If you then decide, actually, I don't want it, yeah, it's dropped in value immediately. So that makes it all the more important that you really do take some time to think about what it is you need before you do that. Personally, my advice would be, if you're not sure that you're going to like the hobby, then the last thing you need to do is go out and blow a couple of grand on a kayak. It's always a good idea to check Marketplace and the various other selling sites, because people regularly change their kayaks, as I have over the years. And if you buy second hand, you can quite often pick up a package that someone's leaving the hobby for one reason or another, and you'll have the whole lot there: dry suit, anchor, kayak, rods, practically everything you need, at like a really good price. So it's always worth looking at that as an option. But on the other hand, if you've got the money, and you're confident that you're going to enjoy the hobby, or you're already in it and you're just looking to buy, upgrade or whatever, then knock yourself out. But it's also a good idea to have in mind what you think you're going to need based on the things I've mentioned here. So if you go into a shop, you aren't completely steered 100% by the people in the shop. You need to have your own opinion, just in case they've got an agenda to sell a certain item of stock, or get something cleared out so they can get a new line in. So to summarise, the longer the kayak, the better it will track whilst paddling, and the better it will handle rougher sea conditions. So if you plan to travel any distance on your fishing from your launch point, then a longer kayak with a rudder will make travelling easier, basically, and less effort. The wider the kayak, the more stable it's going to be, but at the cost of speed through the water. You need to take into account your physical ability. Look at the weights of kayaks and how you plan to move them around, how you plan to load them and unload them, and just be realistic with yourself, because it won't take long for you to realise if you've thought, oh yeah, I'll be fine with that 50-kilo kayak. It won't take long for it to dawn on you that maybe it wasn't a brilliant idea if you're not that strong, or you've got a dodgy knee or something like that. Consider what type of fishing you want to do. So this is a big one as well. Do you need a lot of weight capacity? Are you only going to go out on flat days, or are you going to want to fish as often as you can possibly manage? You're going to go a long way. Do you want speed over stability, or stability over speed? Do you want maneuverability? So you'd be looking for, rudders and maybe pedal drives. And then you've got pedal drive or not to consider. This can depend on your budget, because generally speaking, a decent pedal drive kayak is a fair bit more expensive than a normal paddle sit on top. The only real downside to a pedal system is the extra weight on the water and a little bit less storage space. But in my opinion and experience, the pluses of a pedal drive outweigh the negatives, easily. I think I touched on it earlier. Then your budget, obviously, if you can afford to buy new, that's lovely. But just bear in mind, obviously, you're going to lose a fair bit on that should you decide to move it on. And if you're buying new, you really want to make the right choice first time. Otherwise, it's going to be costly. In your budget, you should, if you haven't already got it, account for the fact that you're going to need a certain amount of safety related stuff, which really is a must. It's your responsibility to look after yourself out there and not put yourself or anyone else in danger by cutting corners or trying to save money where you should be spending a bit. So yeah, take that into account on your budget. There is bargains to be had in the used market, and if you buy something used at a fair price and sell it 6 months later, you're hardly going to lose anything at all on it. If you got a good deal, you might even break even or make a few quid. So, you know, an educated purchase from a used, you know, a pre-used kayak is a good idea a lot of the time. I realise this may be a little bit waffly, so just try and take out of it the bits that you think might be useful. So ask yourself the questions, answer them honestly, and then take a look at, you know, what you think you should need and give it a bit of thought rather than do what I did and just rush, see a fishing kayak, rush in and buy it. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully I'll get back out on the water soon. The weather's actually, it's been playing ball, but I've not felt too good the last few days, so I've not been able to take advantage of that. But you know, 2025 is on its way, and I've got a lot of plans for 2025 and the fishing. So yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.